where the Conflux token has spiked 60% as the blockchain integrated China's version of Instagram. So now 200 million users of Little Red Book, which is the Chinese version of Instagram, will be able to display Conflux NFTs on their profiles. This marks another milestone in China's embrace of Web3. Earlier this month, we spoke about the country launching its first regulated platform for NFT trading, which was created by state-owned Chinese technology exchange. And we recently learned that the country had a big push for their CBDC during Lunar New Year. Adam, gonna toss this off to you. What do you make of this news and China's, it feels like a new embrace for the NFT world?
So the situation with China has always been an interesting one because culturally there's been a lot of interest in the speculative parts of sort of the cryptocurrency ecosystem. That comes pretty directly into conflict, though, with the ruling government's priorities in terms of making sure that they keep capital flight from occurring. They keep the money that's made in China or that's coming back to China in China. That's something that's been very important to them. The country's had capital controls. It's what led to, at least we believe, it's what led to many of the sort of cryptocurrency bans and blockchain technology bans that we've seen over the years, most notably the mining one, I believe, was most recent. And then also there was one ban on exchanges. So NFTs coming back actually isn't that big of a surprise to me because there is really this hunger for this collectible, consumption type speculative marketplace. And NFTs don't really threaten, the government's control of money. And it's less of an issue around capital flight. Honestly, I still don't think it's a great fit, but I think that there are limited options that they actually have in these types of situations. And you'll note that you said that it was a state-owned company that was the one behind the technology rolling this out. That has some implications behind it too that I don't really think we have enough information to understand at this point, but it's definitely something I'll be watching. Over to you, Will.
Yeah, I actually want to push back a little bit on what Jen was saying about this being a moment for Web3 in China, because I think it's just a continuation of the tech entrainment policy that the Chinese government has been working on very slowly. They use these private sector companies that get big, that have a lot of money from the Chinese government. They balloon up, then they approve them, and they integrate them into whatever other tech stacks are out there. So right now we have like the Chinese version of Instagram, and Little Red Book, of course, that goes back to the Mao Zedong era, which is like the propaganda booklet that everyone had to read during the beginning of the communist regime there. So like everything is very tied within control of the communist regime. And that's why you see only allowed partnerships, which is not very Web3, right? The purpose of Web3 is that I can go launch a smart contract on Ethereum anytime I want, and no one can stop me. I can launch whatever I want on top of Ethereum, and no one can stop me. I'm a paying user of an open, neutral protocol. This is the very antithesis of that. And in fact, if you look at it in the bottom of the article, they received $5 million from the Shanghai government in order to facilitate this. And Conflux itself has been getting a lot of funds from the Chinese government in order to grow its public permissionless blockchain. There's a few other details in there which are worth noting, like they're not allowing any ICOs on top of it. They're not allowing any like sort of DeFi thing. These things are like native to Web3. That's what Web3 is about, open permissionless innovation. And this is not that. Zach, up to you.
Yeah, I think those are all really great points, especially sort of the cultural context there. I will say, removed from the cultural context, this is perhaps an example of Web 2.5, right? We hear from Web 2 companies who have some believers in what Web 3 can offer to their customer bases, and we see them championing products like this and rolling it into some of their traditional Web 2 services, right? So that momentum, I think, is actually interesting to note. I think we're going to talk about it probably in our next story, but you look at like big brands like Nike sort of rolling out Web3 products in the midst of crypto winter. Stuff like that, I think, is still on the table for some of these teams that see these tools as ways to establish deeper, more meaningful relationships with their consumers, right? If we can sort of sell to these consumers the idea of increased ownership on their part, maybe that will look favorably on our brand for them going forward. And that's something that some of these big companies are willing to bet on, even as crypto prices generally crater, aside from the last couple of weeks. Anyway, those are my thoughts on that one, sort of connecting the Web 2.5 narrative to this development over in China.